College Green for us. Good morning to you.
Morning, Julia. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thanks so much for joining us. Lots I want to get through. We've only got a few minutes. I want to ask you first of all about these new anti-protest powers being rushed into law in time for the coronation as of today. Lots of people concerned that priority has been given to a major event like this, but actually, you know, people have been struggling for months, even years now, dealing with eco-protesters. And are we losing our right to protest?
No, Julia, we're not. What we're doing is we're making sure that people can get around the country. You know, if we want to halve inflation, if we want to grow the economy, reduce debt, cut waiting lists and stop the votes, we've got to have an economy that is growing and delivering for the whole of the United Kingdom. And those 5 promises are essential to the British people. So what we're doing is we're bringing forward powers that the police asked for many, many months ago, before we knew there was a coronation coming, and we're making sure that they're in place in time for this major national event. I think that's a really important thing to do, and I think that's a good thing for the British people.
Well, we shall see what happens. I mean, it's obviously had that sort of arrest outside Buckingham Palace yesterday. There are real concerns about security ahead of the coronation, aren't there?
Well, this is something you'll understand that I'm not going to talk to you about in any detail at all, but it is something I've been working on with some fantastic people, some amazing police officers and some wonderful intelligence officers who've really put together an extraordinary package in order to deal with not just the kind of protests that we might face here, but of course with foreign leaders from around the world, heads of state and government. You know, it could be protests from anywhere in the anywhere around the world.
Can I ask you about what you're announcing today? A ban on cold calling about all financial products. A few years ago, it was cold calling about pension products that was banned, but also banning a lot of these tech scams that come in as part of a new national strategy to tackle the cost of fraud in this country. We know this is a massive rising issue, particularly online. £7 billion a year it's costing us. So what is the government going to try and do to tackle this issue and get to the bottom of it?
Well, look, there are 3 things we're doing, Julia. The first is we're blocking fraud. You've quite rightly spoken there about some of the tech scams, and we're working with tech companies to make sure that they take their responsibilities seriously. The second thing we're doing is we are empowering the police. You know, we're making sure that we have 400 new investigators in a national fraud squad and a national fraud intelligence unit working with our intelligence agencies to make sure that police work is better targeted, because a lot of this, sadly, is overseas. So not all of it can be done through the normal empowering police to arrest people. And the third is we're empowering individuals. You know, the number of times you and I, Julia, have spoken about individuals who have been scammed by a text message or by an email that has targeted them, and they haven't known that those things shouldn't be responded to.
And they're very sophisticated now. People are often very embarrassed and ashamed, but actually these are highly sophisticated organised crime gangs now.
Julia, let me be very clear. People should not be embarrassed and ashamed, but they should report. The reality is we're seeing in fraud the overlap between organised crime, between state attacks and terrorist groups. We're seeing them exchange money using different forms of fraud to get cash out of a country or to make sure that they liquidize, as it were, assets like Bitcoin and so on. And so we're seeing a whole series of complexity in fraud, which we didn't see years ago. Now, this means, sadly, that the number of fraud victims who are under the age of 35 is going up. This isn't just about vulnerable people who aren't used to technology. This is about all of us.
OK. Can I also ask you about, well, all of us? NHS strikes, they've been affecting all of us, but everyone we know knows someone either works for the NHS or someone who's had an operation cancelled or treatment delayed because of NHS strikes and other delays. A deal done yesterday, NHS unions largely voting to accept the 5% pay offer for this coming year and some lump sums to cover last year. Still talks with the BMA ongoing, representing junior doctors, another strike ballot by the Royal College of Nurses. Has this been a victory for the unions or a victory for the government?
Well, look, I think the unions have made their case extremely effectively, and I think the government has listened. Look, Pat Cullen, who's the leader of the Royal College of Nurses, has put this to her members and supported it. I'm very sorry that her membership didn't, because we all rely on the NHS. Look, my father is recovering this morning. Thank you very much to Dr. Sharma for his extraordinary care for my dad.
Sorry to hear that. I hope he's well.
He's doing okay. He's doing okay. So I'm very, very glad to say it. But, you know, we all rely on the NHS, and I'm very, very grateful to all the extraordinary teams of doctors, nurses,
yet everyone says that.
Paramedics.
How much are we going to pay them?
But this is why this settlement is actually, this is a fair settlement. You know, for most people on band 6, so midwives, paramedics, this is an extra £5,000 and over the next 2 years, and with a £2,000 payment coming this summer. So it is a settlement that the unions have negotiated. It's a settlement that we've come to. And I think it's a settlement that reflects both the trouble, both the difficulties that we've got as an entire economy, but also the way in which we need to respect those who are doing so well for our country.
I've got 1 minute left, less than 1 minute, and I've got 2 questions to ask you. Sue Gray, has she done anything wrong?
Well, I just hope that Keir Starmer encourages her to cooperate with the Aqaba process.
Has she done anything wrong?
That's for Aqaba, I'm afraid. I don't.
OK, this is the body that was to decide whether or not she was talking to Keir Starmer at the time investigating Boris Johnson. Just finally, national anthem. A third of Britons say the national anthem should be changed. Do you think it should be changed?
No. Although I'm getting used to singing God Save the King instead of God Save the Queen, I'm very proud to sing our national anthem.
All right, Tom Tugendhat, Security Minister, thank you so much. Brief time, but we've got to a few things there. Final word from Russell Quirk. I mean, just briefly on... you don't want to change the national anthem. You feel very strongly about
I don't,
this.
but let's just talk very, very quickly about all of this legislation that's being rammed in by the Conservatives. It's all down to the police to make sure they enforce it. I'm not convinced they will.
Very fair point. We could enforce the laws we've already got instead of bringing new laws. Mind-blowing idea. It's been a pleasure having your company. This is Talk Breakfast.